Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of Southwest Urban Homesteader. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about urban livestock. I raise rabbits and chickens. I got into rabbits about 2 years ago. I started out vermicomposting, that's how my whole thing started. And I was looking for an extra feed stock for the worms. And I had come across lots of articles describing raising rabbits over your worm bins. And one thing led to another. I kind of got into the meat aspect of it, and I thought about it more and more and was like, I would really like to do this for meat as well. So I started raising rabbits. I raise 3 different breeds of rabbits. I have Californians, New Zealand whites, and I also have Americans. The Californians and New Zealands, you can find information all over YouTube, all over the internet. They're very popular breeds. They're very commercial breeds. They're bred almost exclusively for the commercial use. They're very stocky, blocky rabbit. Excellent meat producers. The Americans, on the other hand, they're more of a rare breed. Up until 2005-2006, they were on the American Rabbit Breeders Association critically endangered list. They were getting ready to disappear as a breed. They've since had a bit of a revival. They're now on the threatened. They're not on the critical so much. But I have 2 Americans. I have a blue doe and I have an American black buck. They're not as blocky. They have a mandolin body shape, which, as you can see her hump a little bit right there. This is my American blue doe. Her name is Lady. They're beautiful rabbits. They have excellent fur quality. Scare. Don't want to move too fast around rabbits. They have excellent meat quality, excellent fur quality, and they're just not as meaty up around the saddle. But you can see, one of the things I really love about them is they have these long ears. They're extremely good in the heat, which is a big thing here. I live in the American Southwest. We have extremely hot summers. I mean, today the mercury is in the 104, 105 temperature range. So I have to raise my rabbits indoors because they can't really survive out in the sun. I raise inside an enclosed rabbitry. It's about 159 square feet. It's originally a tool shed, but I have a window that allows me to use a window AC unit, so I can keep the temperature around 75 because the building's currently uninsulated. I would like to insulate it, but money, you know. So I'm going to show you my rabbits and talk to you a little bit about raising rabbits. Alright, this is my American blue doe. She is about 10 months old right now. Beautiful rabbit. She weighs around 9 pounds. Beautiful rabbit. And she's a sweetheart too. So to get started, one of the biggest things you need is a cage. I get my cages from a local feed store. They're manufactured by a guy out of Arizona called T&L Cages. He only sells to feed stores and only in the southwestern American region. This one here is a 18-inch high by 20-inch deep by 36-inch length. It's not a huge cage, but it's about all they really need. This is the smallest size I go. It's almost too small for the large breed. I have other cages that I'm getting ready to put the rest of them in. These are 18 inches high by 36 inches wide by 24 inches deep. Second thing you're going to need is a source of water. I use your typical pet store water bottle. They're cheap, easy to replace. Something to consider that you don't necessarily need is a hay manger. This is the hay manger back here. I find it just cuts down a little bit on the amount of waste that ends up down here in the waste box. Third thing you need, most importantly, is a feeder. I use J feeders. Again, cheap, easy to replace, easy to remove, easy to clean. If you do get a J feeder, make sure you get one that's like, let me see if I can show you here. Make sure to get one that has these screen bottoms. You can see the screen bottom there. What I like about the screen bottoms is it lets all all the fine particles through. Rabbits don't really like fine particles, and you'll have trouble getting them to eat all their food if there's too many fines in their feed because they don't sift through it. This is one of my Californian does. She's a little bit on the smaller side. She's around 8 or 9 pounds, which is a little bit small compared to the other rabbits I have. My male New Zealand is about 10 pounds. My other female Californian is a whopping 12 pounds. You can see she's still got some hay in her manger and she's munching away happily. I feed alfalfa hay because it's about the only hay I have real access to. Timothy hay and orchard hay are really hard to find around here. From time to time I can find Bermuda grass, but they really do not like the Bermuda grass. So I just limit the intake of the alfalfa because it's extremely high in calcium, which is bad for their livers as they get older, because if you feed them free choice hay, at least I find, they will eat nothing but the hay. They will ignore their pellets from here to kingdom come. One of the reasons I got into rabbits is I was an apartment dweller at the time and I didn't have a whole lot of space, but I had a one-car garage underneath my apartment, and I figured, you know, small space, they're supposed to take up a really small footprint, I'll try it. So they ended up taking up maybe a 1/16 of the garage. It was like, it was a 4 foot wide, 3 foot deep, 6 foot tall footprint because I had them on the shelves. So they really didn't take up any space at all. Naturally, things have progressed, and the new house I'm at has a larger rabbitry, so I'm able to have more rabbits. Part of the reason I got the Americans, which I really love. The other reason I got into rabbits is for the meat aspect. Rabbit is an excellent, excellent meat. You know, a single doe can produce multiple litters a year. For example, a very intensive breeding program, you can get around 6 litters a year. And, you know, they have typically big litters. I haven't had a litter that's smaller than 9. I've had them die off to where my smallest litter was 7 with a couple die-offs. And you know, a single rabbit can produce about 5 to 6 pounds of meat on the same amount of water and feed it takes to produce 1 pound of beef. Not to mention, rabbit is higher in protein, lower in fat and cholesterol than any other meat you can typically find in the American supermarket. So that was another thing that really kind of turned me on to rabbit. And really, they're super tasty. They're higher in protein and leaner in cholesterol than chicken, and they're less greasy than chicken. They're a little bit tougher as they get older. That's why we have fryer and stewer age, which I'll talk to you about in a later video. But they're not as greasy, which I really like. There's some recipes that I really love with chicken, but I've always felt it's too greasy. But you change out rabbit, and man, it's just absolutely delicious, delicious. Alright, in this cage we got 3 kits from my last litter. These guys are 13, 14 weeks old now, I think. I had 7 that litter, and I have harvested 3. The 4th one is still in the cage with Mama back there. These guys are on the floor right now because I haven't finished building the shelf to put these cages on. Only been in this house about a month, and most of the other stuff has been taking precedence. You can see they're really, really quiet animals. This is one of the things I really like about rabbits. You know, there's not a whole lot of noise other than the rattling of the cages. With chickens, you get the occasional clucking. Sometimes they get really noisy when they get really excited. But the only really bad noise I've had was when my New Zealand buck got bit by one of my Californian does. Bit his ear, and he screeched, man. He sounded like a dying child. It's kind of terrifying when they get scared. But otherwise, I've had really no noise problems at all. Everywhere I've lived, nobody has even known I've had these animals, which is something I really, really like. This is my New Zealand buck that I just talked to y'all about. And you can see that notch in his ear right there. See if I can get a good close-up on it, if it's the same focus. But that's where she bit him. She took a good chunk out of his ear. It's just something to watch out for when you're breeding them. You know, that happened with me standing right there watching. So, you know, some people like to leave them in the same cage all day long. I don't really recommend it just because that happened to mine. Alright, this is my big Californian Doe. She is enormous, good stock, but she's mean as hell. She's still got one of the kits from her last litter in there with her, and you can see he's filling out quite nicely. And this is my American buck. He's a black, beautiful coat. That's one of those things about the Americans that I really like. Their coats are outstandingly beautiful. It doesn't really show up on the video too well, but they're beautiful. I got these from a fella in Central Texas, J&S Rabbitry. You can find him on Facebook. He's got a wonderful rabbitry, lots of breeds, and he really is producing some beautiful American stock. These are some sweet rabbits, man. I've had problems with my other ones not being too friendly. It took a long time to get one of my Californians and my New Zealands to be friendly, and they're still not too human friendly. They're kind of afraid of people, with the exception of her. She is just an ungodly terror. I've never been able to get her nice. However, she is my best producer so far. I haven't bred my Americans yet. They're next. They're going to be done in the next couple weeks here. But they're just absolutely beautiful rabbits. Alright guys, well that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed my little tour of my rabbitry. Hopefully in the next week or two I can get up a breeding of my video of the breeding of my Americans. And I don't know, next episode maybe we'll talk about the chickens or maybe the compost pile. I don't know yet. Hopefully put out some good content for you guys. Have a good week.